What's up guys, it's Zach over here at AFS. On today's episode of How To, we are going to tackle the mirror cap on this Toyota Tacoma. Last episode we tackled the roof on a GTR, and today I'm going to show you two different ways on how to stretch a mirror, both by yourself and with another person. Let's get into it. So the tools that you'll need are going to be the same for solo and a tag team install. So all we need is a piece of vinyl. I cut this about 50% larger than the mirror itself, so we do have some bleed. I'm using a Red Wing from ProTools.com with monkey tail buffer on it and a NT Cutter red dot as well as a heat gun. These are really all you need for it because you're going to use your hands to stretch. Some people use certain tools to help them stretch the mirror by themselves. I prefer to just tack it to the car and stretch it by hand. All right, so when you are stretching the mirror by yourself, you want to add a little bit of pre-stretch. So we're basically going to stretch the film a little bit prior to even installing on the mirror. So the best way to do that when you're by yourself, you want to heat a little panel of whatever vehicle you're working on so the film will stick very, very well, because if the vehicle is cold, which it is cold here today in Colorado, the film will not stick. So we're gonna go ahead and heat that, and we're going to stick that film right there. And you're gonna leave all this lower film floating, and you're gonna come through and we're going to heat this film up and get it real nice and warm, and then we're going to apply our pre-stretch. And to do that, you're going to pull in a downward and outward fashion at the bottom edge of this film. So as you can see, the film is getting pretty warm here, getting a little soft. And once you stretch it, you're gonna hold it in place until it cools. So you can see the stretch there, and I'm pulling outward at the bottom, and I'm going to wait until that film cools down. So now that it's cooled down, it's not retracting. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull this off, and you want your outside stretch around this area of the mirror because that's where you have a compound curve and you want it to shrink back to its original state. So then we're going to lay the mirror to fit, tack that right there. We're gonna come across this way. Now on this inside edge, we do have a edge that we're going to shoot for one piece. So on that, we need a lot of up and down stretch there to get it to make this curve for us. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, and without heating it, you're gonna stretch down there, and you're gonna stretch up there. And as you can see, it wants to wrap around just a little bit, and that's all we need for now because we do have that pre-stretch. So then we're gonna pick this up, and we're going to yank on this and bring it around. And you wanna try to get the mirror laid as best as possible prior to any heat. Okay, so we wanna tack our body line because that is going to be our first tack point. And now, the mirror doesn't have too much further to go to actually be entirely wrapped. So what we're gonna go through and do now is actually use our heat gun to shrink the film back to its original position, and that's where the pre-stretch really comes into play. So as you can see here, we do have some bunching, but I'm gonna go ahead and heat this, and all of that will shrink back to its original form and tighten up around the edge to get rid of some of that bunching, and we will work the rest out in just a minute. So as you can see, the film is mostly around the mirror. So obviously we do have to work just a little bit out. So these downward fingers right here, we're gonna go ahead and shift those to the side a little bit to eliminate that tension, and we're gonna pull to our corner right there. And now those are gone. Up here we do have a little bit, and we're going to move those away from the corner back towards the center where we can use our pre-stretch to shrink back just a little bit more. All right, so now that we have the mirror completely conformed and heated back to as much as it will possibly shrink, we want to go ahead and card all of the air out. So again, make sure that body line is tacked. Card that air. You can see we're getting a little bubble there. Card all that down towards the edge. You can go ahead and just push on that bubble. Depending on the film, this is Avery, so it does have good air release, so you can just push on the bubble. And now all of this, any sort of bunching, you want to work out evenly side to side to help even out any tension you may have. And on this inside edge, I'm going to go ahead, card that down to the inside of the mirror cap. All right, so now everything is carded down on the face of the mirror. And now all that's left is actually going around, shrinking the edges and getting full coverage on this mirror. So we actually have a side marker over here, so we need to pick up off of that side marker and I'm going to use the hard side of my card to card into there, and I have to pick it up to completely release it from the side marker itself. Otherwise it will stretch the film in there instead of laying the film in there, and that can cause failures over time. And sometimes it does help with, especially breakaway mirrors, to either fold it in or out depending on what part of the mirror you are trying to wrap. It will make your life just a little bit easier. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna heat all of that. And then again, as you come around this edge, you want to use your hard card edge to even out any sort of tension. You do want to start at your corner as you're going around, and you start at your corner and you work your tension towards your straight edge. So in this corner, I am pushing my card this way to push my extra film this way, and from here down, I'm working it down towards this corner because this one is much more complex than this bottom one. So all I'm doing is just using my card to find the hard edge of the mirror cap itself. All right, so now that we have our mirror completely laid, the face, the edges, everything like that, it is time to trim. So we're going to use our NT Cutter Red Dot, and you want just a little bit of blade out here because we are actually going to cut in these gaps. We're not going to cut on the mirror, the housing, or the cap itself. We are going to cut in what we call dead space. So it is the gap in between two panels. The blade is very, very thin, so it can cut in those areas. That way you do not run risk of cutting either the mirror housing or the mirror cap itself. As you can see, all of the trim came off in one piece and the mirror is completely wrapped. So the last steps is to go around, push down all of your edges with your card or micro squeegee, whichever you'd prefer, but you want to go through and make sure all of your edges are pushed down, because as you pull that scrap vinyl off, it can cause some of your edges to lift just slightly. So we're gonna go around, and the very, very last step to completing this mirror is going around and post-heating the mirror. You do wanna make sure you get all of your edges. Anywhere that there could be some form of tension, you wanna get those edges to at least 190 degrees Fahrenheit and press them down to ensure that they will not lift over time. So now we're gonna demonstrate how to do it with two people. It's going to be almost the same procedure with the pre-stretch, everything like that. It is just a little bit easier because we can get pre-stretch on the top and the bottom, whereas doing it by yourself, it is a little bit more difficult to get the stretch on the top. So I'm going to use Matt here to help me. I'm going to stretch one side, he will stretch the other side, and then we'll stretch this whole mirror. After that, you are going to repeat the process the same as solo install. So again, we are going to pull outward from each other and also in a V shape at the ends. And now I'm going to go ahead and take this side, and I'm going to hook the inside with a lot of up and down tension like that. And then as Matt stretches around, I'm going to pull out all of the tension that he creates from the sides. So as you can see, it's just a little bit easier with two people. This mirror stretched better all the way around with two people, and we're also able to apply a little bit more stretch because we had two people. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of bunching here. So we're actually gonna pop this face up, heat all of this, and you can watch all of that disappear from our pre-stretch, just like that. And now all of that is gone, and we can go around the entire mirror and all of the tension will dissipate because of the pre-stretch. So without even touching the mirror, you can see it is basically entirely laid all the way around the edge. So there's a little bit less work to actually get it around the edges and to the point that you can actually trim it. So we always try to recommend stretching with somebody to help you. Obviously not everybody can do that. Here in the shop we have multiple installers, so that is very accessible. And it makes it a much quicker process to actually install the mirror. So from this point, you are going to install exactly as shown previously when you do a solo install. From the carding to the trimming, finish work, post heating, everything like that is exactly the same. It's just your initial stretch is a little bit easier. All right guys, so that sums up today's episode of how to. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please smash that like and subscribe button. Please drop a comment letting us know what you liked about the tips and tricks, also what you'd like us to do next in our how-to series. Hopefully today's video helped you guys learn some tips and tricks on how to wrap a mirror cap. There are a bunch of different styles of mirrors. Some are fully painted, some have mirror stock, so there are multiple scenarios that we didn't cover. This is just a very basic mirror cap, which is what most manufacturers use today. If you guys are looking to pick up any of the tools we used in today's video, we are going to link those in the description below. AFS out.